This is something he's been waiting for, and he's probably spent more time thinking about it. For the rest of us, it's more a question.
She was never supposed to be queen. She's not next in line. Yet somehow, Princess Anne has become the royal family's most dependable figure, quietly taking on duties, earning respect, and reshaping the public's idea of true leadership. While others retreat from the spotlight, she steps forward without fanfare. Is it possible that the monarchy's strongest force is the one who's never sought power? As the palace faces uncertainty, one woman's steady presence may be leading a silent transformation. What's really happening behind the gates of Buckingham Palace? And why is everyone suddenly looking at Princess Anne? In 2024, the British monarchy, long a symbol of tradition, faced unfamiliar uncertainty. The familiar faces of the royal family began disappearing from public view. King Charles III, who waited a lifetime to become king, was diagnosed with cancer. Shortly after his coronation, he stepped away from royal duties to undergo treatment and rest privately. Prince William, the next in line, also withdrew from the public eye to care for his wife, Princess Catherine, who had undergone major abdominal surgery. Even Queen Camilla, often seen beside King Charles, quietly pulled back. Her schedule lightened, fewer public appearances, less visibility. The royal front line, the image of consistency, had faded into absence. Then, without fanfare, Princess Anne emerged, not with speeches or headlines, but with unwavering presence. She didn't seek the spotlight, she simply showed up. Anne, the second child and only daughter of Queen Elizabeth II, has always been known for her relentless work ethic. In fact, she consistently performs more public engagements than any other royal. While others retreat or recover, Anne advances. She shows up for military visits, charity openings, rural ceremonies, and international receptions, many of which never make headlines. In 2024, her efforts transformed from supportive appearances into symbolic leadership. Events usually reserved for monarchs, Anne attended them. Guests typically greeted by royalty, Anne welcomed them. While Charles fought illness, William stayed by his wife, and Camilla stepped back. It was Anne who moved forward, calm, composed, constant. Inside the palace, staff and insiders began referring to her as the glue holding everything together. She wasn't trying to gain power, she just knew the work needed to be done, and she was the one willing to do it. Ironically, Anne was never meant to lead. Royal tradition favored her brothers. She was overlooked in the line of succession, not for lack of merit, but because she was born a woman. But where birthright once defined importance, Anne's quiet consistency began to redefine leadership. While others faded into silence, Anne's steady presence spoke louder. As 2024 progressed, King Charles's health kept him behind closed doors. Queen Camilla, though initially by his side, began skipping key events. Prince William prioritized family. Princess Catherine remained out of sight, still recovering. The royal balcony that once held generations now appeared half-empty. Ceremonies like Trooping the Color lacked their usual grandeur. Public concern grew. In their absence, Anne's image grew stronger. She filled schedules, not headlines. She greeted citizens, not cameras. She made appearances, not statements, and people noticed. In a time when much of the monarchy seemed to vanish, Princess Anne remained. She symbolizes strength. She provided reassurance. Her presence reminded the public of Queen Elizabeth II, graceful, composed, unwavering. Anne never asked for the spotlight, but it found her anyway. Meanwhile, Queen Camilla's absence became harder to ignore. At first attributed to exhaustion or a chest infection, her withdrawal stretched into months. Rumors began. Was she seriously ill? Was she retreating under pressure? Was she being phased out? The palace remained silent, but royal observers noticed something striking. At events Camilla used to attend, it was Anne who now stood by King Charles. During the Order of the Garter procession, Anne took Camilla's traditional place, right behind the king, a detail that spoke volumes in royal symbolism. Symbolism matters in monarchy. Every gesture, every placement, every title, it all carries weight. And though no announcement was made, the message was clear. Camilla was stepping back. Anne was stepping in. Behind the scenes, whispers turned to quiet recognition. The shift had begun. Approval ratings reflected this change. Camilla's popularity dropped to historic lows, under 40%. Meanwhile, Anne's soared. She became more admired than even Prince William, not because of campaign efforts or interviews, but because of consistent action. The contrast was hard to ignore. One royal stayed present, the other stayed silent. One reminded people of Queen Elizabeth's steadfastness. The other faded from view. The dynamic between Anne and Camilla runs deeper than recent events. It dates back to the 1970s when both women were connected through Andrew Parker Bowles, Camilla's former husband and Anne's rumored lover. The royal triangle lingered in palace lore, but it was Anne's silent withdrawal from Andrew that left lasting undertones. Even Queen Elizabeth was said to have allowed Anne a rare exception. She didn't have to curtsy to Camilla after her marriage to Charles, a quiet nod to long-standing tensions and perhaps loyalty to her daughter. Anne and Camilla have never been close. Their tension isn't loud, it's subtle. But now, with Anne rising and Camilla retreating, that tension feels more symbolic than ever. As Anne takes on Camilla's former duties, the power shift is becoming increasingly visible. It's not official, but it's undeniable. There's even a term for it now, the shadow regency. Normally, when a monarch can't perform their duties, a regency is declared. An heir is appointed to act on their behalf. But that hasn't happened. No law invoked, no announcement made. Yet, every time a ribbon is cut, a medal awarded, or a soldier greeted on behalf of the crown, it's Anne. While King Charles quietly undergoes cancer treatment, Prince William remains beside his family, and Queen Camilla disappears from the spotlight. Anne has filled the vacuum with purpose and poise. Behind closed doors, even the men in gray, the palace's senior advisors, have shifted schedules and responsibility toward Anne. Not because she demanded it, but because she earned it. Because she's always there. Because she never fails. This unspoken leadership is more than symbolism, it's influence. Her rise hasn't been noisy, it's been deliberate, earned, real. And now, the public is beginning to ask, what if leadership is not inherited, but earned? Princess Anne has never sought power, but her actions have spoken louder than any crown. Her steady dedication stands in stark contrast to others' absences. She's been called the monarchy's silent strength, the reluctant leader, the steady force. In a time when the royal family faces uncertainty and waning visibility, Anne is redefining what it means to serve, not with speeches, not with scandal, but with quiet, unwavering duty. So the question is no longer, who holds the title, but rather, who holds the trust? And right now, it's Princess Anne. If crowns were earned, not inherited, would she already be wearing one? In recent months, there has been a noticeable shift in the workings of the British royal family. It hasn't come with formal announcements or major press releases, but it's becoming increasingly clear through appearances, schedules, and public responsibilities. Princess Anne, the second child and only daughter of Queen Elizabeth II, appears to be stepping into a much more prominent role within the monarchy. This development comes during a time of major changes behind palace doors. King Charles III, who officially became monarch following the death of Queen Elizabeth in 2022, has been undergoing cancer treatment. As a result, his public appearances have become limited, and many of his royal duties have been reassigned or temporarily paused. At the same time, Prince William, first in line to the throne, has been less visible as well. His wife, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, is also recovering from significant abdominal surgery. The couple, while still central to the royal narrative, has scaled back their public duties, focusing more on personal matters and family. Queen Camilla, who took on a growing role following her husband's ascension to the throne, has also begun appearing less frequently in public. Officially, this has been described as a temporary change, but some observers note that her absence has stretched over several months and includes events she would normally attend. In the background of all these adjustments, Princess Anne has remained a consistent figure. In fact, her presence has only increased. She continues to carry out engagements on behalf of the crown, many of them solo, some of them in place of senior royals who would traditionally fill those roles. She has visited military bases, hospitals, schools, and charities. She has attended ceremonial events, state functions, and international receptions. Whether in London or on overseas trips, her calendar has stayed full. In some weeks, she's carried out more engagements than any other member of the royal family. This isn't particularly new for Anne. Over the years, she has built a reputation for being one of the most hardworking members of the royal household. She typically clocks the highest number of annual engagements, often without much media coverage. However, the difference in 2024 is the type of appearances she's making and the absence of others. Traditionally, certain duties are reserved for the monarch, their spouse, or the direct heir. But more and more, Anne is stepping into those roles. She's now representing the monarchy at high-level functions and international events that usually would have featured the king, queen, or prince. While the palace hasn't formally acknowledged any changes, her increased visibility has not gone unnoticed. Some royal commentators have begun to describe this as a form of shadow regency. While that term isn't official, and it doesn't carry legal meaning in this context, it reflects a subtle but important reality. In the absence of the monarch and heir, another senior royal is taking on the symbolic and practical responsibilities of the crown. In this case, that person is Princess Anne. A regency in British law is usually declared if the reigning monarch is unable to perform their duties due to illness or absence, and the next in line is appointed to act in their place. However, no such formal regency has been declared in this instance. Still, the shifting of duties is creating a similar dynamic, where Anne has, in effect, become the most visible working royal at a time when the monarchy is under strain. This isn't a power grab, nor has it been positioned that way by the palace or Anne herself. Instead, it seems to be a practical response to a unique situation. The monarchy depends on visibility, tradition, and stability. In a year where multiple senior royals are away from public duties, someone needs to carry the torch. Anne appears to be the one doing so, not with pomp or speeches, but by showing up and doing the work. What makes this more interesting is that Anne has always approached her role with a certain straightforwardness. She doesn't often give interviews. She rarely shares personal opinions. She's known for being direct, efficient, and committed. This has earned her a level of respect, both inside the palace and among the public, that has grown steadily over the years. Polls taken in 2024 showed Anne's popularity increasing significantly, even surpassing that of Queen Camilla and Prince William in some surveys. This popularity seems to be rooted in trust. People see her as dependable. She represents continuity in a time of change. And while she hasn't always been the most public-facing royal, her consistency has made her increasingly relevant. This development is particularly notable because Anne was never expected to take on a central role in the monarchy. When she was born, the rules of succession favored male heirs, regardless of birth order. Her younger brothers, Charles, Andrew, and Edward, all took precedence over her in the line of succession. In another era, she might have been queen, but Anne never seemed bothered by this. She carved out her own place in the royal family by focusing on charitable work, especially around children's health, equestrian sports, and global humanitarian efforts. She is the patron of over 300 organizations, and she has been involved in them not just in name, but in action. Anne's increasing visibility also raises questions about Queen Camilla's current role. In past years, Camilla appeared frequently alongside Charles and took on a growing number of responsibilities. However, her recent absence has sparked some speculation. Whether it's a result of health, public image, or private preference isn't clear. What is clear is that Anne's role has grown, and that growth seems to coincide with Camilla stepping back. Whether intentional or coincidental, the change is being noticed. Royal watchers have pointed out that certain duties once assigned to Camilla are now being fulfilled by Anne. This includes attending formal state ceremonies and accompanying the king to events. At a recent high-profile royal procession, Anne was positioned where Camilla might normally have stood. These visual cues carry meaning within royal protocol. They suggest not just logistical change, but shifting dynamics within the palace. Of course, none of this has been officially confirmed by Buckingham Palace. As is often the case with royal matters, the change is subtle. There are no big headlines, no official declarations. Instead, the clues are in the details: who attends what, where they're placed, how often they appear. Anne's increased presence may simply be a response to current needs, but it also points to a broader question about the future of the monarchy. In a time when public trust is fragile and visibility is key, who will carry the responsibility of keeping the institution stable? It's worth noting that Anne has never expressed interest in being queen, nor has she ever pushed for more influence. But in stepping forward quietly and consistently, she may have become the most important figure in the royal family today, not by title, but by action. In the coming months, as the health of the king remains uncertain and other royals focus on family matters, it's likely that Anne will continue to be the face of the monarchy, not because she's been named the next in line, but because she's present, prepared, and willing to serve. The monarchy has always depended on symbols of stability. At this moment, Princess Anne may be the clearest symbol of that strength. The British royal family has always maintained a carefully controlled public image, but beneath the surface, long-standing personal relationships and unspoken tensions often shape the dynamics we see today. One such relationship that continues to draw quiet curiosity is that between Princess Anne and Queen Camilla. While both have played major roles in the royal institution over the years, their connection dates back long before either of them held senior royal titles. It's a relationship shaped not just by duty, but by history, specifically a shared link to the same man, Andrew Parker Bowles. In the early 1970s, Anne, the daughter of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip, began a relationship with Andrew Parker Bowles, a dashing army officer known in social circles as charming, well-connected, and very close to the royal family. Their relationship was never formally confirmed by the palace, but it was widely acknowledged among insiders in the press. While it may not have been an official royal courtship, it was clear that Anne and Andrew had a real bond. Andrew, however, also had a long-standing relationship with another woman, who would later play a major role in the monarchy, Camilla Shand. She and Andrew had been romantically involved for years, and even during the time he was seeing Anne, he maintained contact with Camilla. This created a triangle of sorts within a tight-knit social world. Eventually, Andrew chose to marry Camilla in 1973. That decision marked the beginning of a complex and quiet tension between the two women. Anne and Andrew's relationship did not end in a dramatic public fallout. There were no angry interviews or overt expressions of heartbreak. Instead, Anne, in her typical fashion, kept her emotions private. However, she did step back and create a distance, both from Andrew and, by extension, Camilla. Those close to the family noted that Anne did not hold any open grudges, but she was firm in her boundaries. While Camilla became Andrew's wife and later resumed a relationship with Prince Charles, Anne simply moved on with her own path, marrying Captain Mark Phillips the following year in 1973. What followed was decades of parallel lives. Camilla, despite her marriage to Andrew, rekindled her relationship with Prince Charles during the 1980s, a relationship that would become one of the most scrutinized royal romances of all time. Their connection, often described as enduring and complex, was eventually made public and led to a series of dramatic events, including the end of Charles's marriage to Princess Diana and Camilla's eventual introduction into the royal fold. Anne, on the other hand, remained relatively steady and quiet in the public eye. She carried out royal duties, focused on her family, and stayed largely out of the personal drama that surrounded her brother. She was consistently described as no-nonsense, direct, and focused. Her role never required constant media attention or reinvention. She simply kept working. Fast forward to more recent years, and both Anne and Camilla have become central figures in the modern monarchy. Yet the traces of their shared past remain. While they are often seen together at public events and appear friendly on camera, royal observers have long sensed a distance between them. According to several insiders, including former palace staff, the tension between them was real, but never openly expressed. They weren't rivals in a dramatic sense, but their shared history created a level of discomfort that never fully disappeared. One subtle yet telling detail emerged from within the palace corridors. It has been reported that Queen Elizabeth II, while still reigning, allowed Anne to forego the traditional curtsy to Camilla after she became queen consort. While curtsying may seem like a small gesture to outsiders, within royal protocol such acts carry real meaning. The omission wasn't accidental, it was deliberate, and it sent a clear message. Anne was not required to show deferential respect to Camilla, at least not in the formal sense. It was a quiet but powerful sign of where the loyalties within the palace truly lay. That gesture alone reflects the nuanced way in which personal dynamics can shape even the most ceremonial elements of royal life. Unlike the flashy headlines or televised interviews, these quiet, almost invisible acts tell us much more about the relationships behind the crown. Over the past year, this subtle divide has become even more apparent. As Camilla has reduced her public engagements, Anne has stepped into an even more prominent role. There is no official record of conflict between the two, but their trajectories are moving in opposite directions. Camilla, who once climbed her way through harsh public judgment to become queen consort, is now taking a visible step back. Meanwhile, Anne, who never sought titles or favor, is becoming the most active and present member of the royal family. Some have suggested that the difference in public sentiment between the two women is due to how they have handled their roles. Camilla, despite years of effort, still carries the weight of her controversial entry into the royal family. Her marriage to Charles came after a long and scandal-prone history, one that many members of the public struggled to accept for years. Anne, by contrast, has never tried to shape public opinion. She has never given major interviews, rarely appears in magazines, and doesn't participate in image-building campaigns. She simply does the work, and as the monarchy faces more internal challenges, that consistency has started to stand out. It's also worth noting that Anne's connection to her late mother, Queen Elizabeth II, is frequently mentioned as a reason for her growing popularity. The public often sees her as the closest embodiment of the late queen's values: duty, discretion, and resilience. In that light, Anne's increased presence may not just be a matter of responsibility, but of symbolism. She represents continuity in a time of uncertainty. Meanwhile, Camilla's reduced role may reflect a deliberate recalibration within the palace. It's possible that, with the king's health challenges and the focus on Prince William and Catherine's future, the royal family is quietly repositioning its image. Having Anne at the forefront provides a sense of stability that is both familiar and comforting to the public. Despite all this, Anne and Camilla have continued to appear together at formal events. They smile, nod, and share the occasional conversation. There is no public sign of conflict or disrespect. But royal watchers who pay attention to the small details, the spacing between them, who walks ahead, who speaks first, suggest that a subtle pecking order has formed, one based not on titles, but on presence. In the end, the relationship between Princess Anne and Queen Camilla is one shaped by history, duty, and a shared connection to the same man. It's not openly hostile, but it is layered with decades of unspoken emotion. As the monarchy evolves in the wake of major health concerns and shifting roles, Anne's quiet rise seems to be creating a new dynamic within the royal household. Whether this shift is temporary or marks a more lasting transformation remains to be seen. But what's clear is that Anne's actions and the public's response to them are redefining how we view senior members of the royal family. In the absence of speeches or declarations, her consistent presence is creating a new story within the House of Windsor, one that began with an unresolved past and is now unfolding into something far more significant. Princess Anne has always been a consistent presence within the British royal family, but she hasn't always been front and center. For many years, she carried out her duties in the background, rarely attracting headlines or public attention. But that seems to be changing. In recent times, Princess Anne has quietly moved into a more prominent role, not through a major announcement or by seeking it out, but through sheer presence and reliability. While other senior royals have stepped back for various reasons, Anne has stepped up. The current landscape of the royal family has seen a lot of change. King Charles is facing ongoing health challenges. Prince William has taken time to focus on his wife Catherine and their children following her own health issues. Queen Camilla has reduced her number of public appearances. All of this has created a kind of leadership vacuum. But instead of rushing to fill the space, Anne has allowed her actions to speak for themselves. She has simply kept going, attending events, supporting charities, and representing the crown without asking for applause. This quiet but steady presence has not gone unnoticed. Public opinion polls in the last year have shown a surprising rise in Anne's popularity. In one poll, she ranked higher than Queen Camilla and even Prince William. What's remarkable about that result is that it didn't come from a media campaign or a major event. It came from consistency. While some royals are praised for their speeches or charity initiatives, Anne is being recognized for something simpler: showing up. Her approach to royal life has always been pragmatic. She doesn't give revealing interviews or use social media. She rarely appears in glossy photo spreads or attempts to modernize her image. Instead, she sticks to what she knows best, carrying out royal duties with a practical, no-nonsense attitude. Over the years, she has been involved with over 300 organizations and charities, covering everything from children's health to maritime safety. Her schedule is often packed, with back-to-back engagements across the UK and abroad. She doesn't cancel last minute or reschedule unless absolutely necessary. This reliability has made her a trusted figure, both within the royal household and among the public. Unlike some of the newer or more controversial members of the royal family, Anne has never needed to reinvent herself. Her public image has remained largely unchanged for decades. That in itself has become a kind of strength. In a world where image is constantly shifting and many public figures are focused on managing perception, Anne's steady approach is being seen as refreshing. She doesn't try to appear perfect. She doesn't overshare. She simply gets on with the job. Her reputation for being straightforward also extends to her personal decisions. When it came to her children, Anne declined royal titles for them. Peter Phillips and Zara Tindall were raised without the burdens or privileges that typically come with being titled royals. Her reasoning was practical. She wanted them to have more freedom and fewer expectations placed on their lives. That decision, once seen as unusual, is now often praised as a sign of wisdom. It reflects a kind of grounded thinking that many admire, especially at a time when traditional institutions like the monarchy are being closely examined. Even in moments of personal challenge, Anne has kept to her quiet code of behavior. Earlier in 2024, she suffered a minor concussion after a horse-related incident. But instead of stepping back or seeking sympathy, she returned to work swiftly. There were no press conferences, no dramatic updates. She resumed her duties without making it a talking point. That sort of quiet resilience is increasingly seen as a contrast to the media-focused narratives that often dominate royal coverage. The public's growing affection for Anne seems to stem not just from what she does, but from how she does it. There's an honesty in her approach that feels authentic. She doesn't chase praise, but earns it gradually. And as royal watchers begin to compare her with others, whether it's Camilla, who has always had to work hard to gain public approval, or Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, whose departure from royal duties drew global attention, Anne stands out for her refusal to play the media game. She doesn't seem interested in winning popularity contests. Her focus has always been on the work itself. Some royal experts have referred to this as a quiet transformation. Anne hasn't changed who she is, but the way people see her has shifted. In an age where the monarchy is often challenged to prove its relevance, Anne has become a symbol of what many still respect about the institution: duty, reliability, and humility. She doesn't carry herself like a celebrity, and that, ironically, makes her more relatable. There's also a generational element to consider. Queen Elizabeth II, who reigned for over 70 years, was admired for her sense of responsibility and discretion. Many now see those same qualities in Anne. It's no surprise that as Charles's reign faces growing uncertainty due to health concerns, and William's family juggles privacy and pressure, the public has turned its attention to someone who reminds them of the past. Anne's presence feels familiar. She provides a kind of continuity that many find comforting. But beyond public sentiment, there's also a practical shift taking place inside the palace. More and more, Anne is the one seen at major events, taking part in ceremonies, attending state functions, and engaging with the public on behalf of the crown. These are roles traditionally carried out by the reigning monarch or their immediate successors. The fact that Anne is now handling these without an official change in title or hierarchy suggests that the palace recognizes her value, not just as a supporting player, but as a central figure. This has led to discussions of what some are calling a shadow regency. Not a legal or formal change in leadership, but a quiet reality in which Anne, through her actions, has become the monarchy's most visible and trusted representative. It's not a role she asked for, but one she seems to have earned through decades of service. Even the palace staff, the courtiers and planners who operate behind the scenes, have reportedly adjusted schedules and responsibilities to reflect Anne's increasing presence. Of course, it's important to note that Anne is not in line to become monarch. She is not the heir apparent, nor has she ever expressed a desire to hold such a position. Royal succession still follows established rules, but what's happening now appears to be something separate from titles or birthright. It's about trust. It's about who the public sees as the face of the monarchy in times of uncertainty. The comparison to her late mother is not just about personality, but also about approach. Queen Elizabeth II often said that she had to be seen to be believed. Anne seems to understand that idea deeply. Her visibility is not about self-promotion, but about fulfilling a role. And she's doing so in a way that reflects the kind of leadership many are hungry for: quiet, competent, and sincere. The current moment in the royal family's story is one of transition. With the king's illness, with other senior royals stepping back, and with the public questioning the future of the monarchy, Princess Anne has stepped into a space that needed filling. Not by shouting the loudest, but by being there, day after day, year after year. As this transition continues to unfold, people are beginning to look at Anne not just as a supporting royal, but as a leading one. Her rise hasn't been marked by big speeches or emotional interviews. It's come from showing up, doing the work, and never asking for credit. As the royal family faces an uncertain future, there's growing attention on one of its most long-standing and least flashy members, Princess Anne. While she has never been next in line for the throne, and likely never will be, there's a growing sense that she is playing a far greater role than many expected. Her rise hasn't come from ambition or publicity, but from steady, consistent service over decades. And now, with King Charles's health under watch and other senior royals stepping back from the spotlight, Anne's visibility feels more important than ever. There hasn't been a formal announcement or declaration from Buckingham Palace. No one has publicly stated that Anne is taking on a regency role or stepping in to lead. But her calendar tells a different story. She's attending events that were once led by King Charles or Queen Camilla. She's representing the crown at home and abroad, quietly fulfilling the responsibilities that come with leadership, even if she doesn't hold the title of monarch. This subtle but clear shift is what some are calling a shadow regency. It's not official, but it's real. A traditional regency would only occur if a monarch was unable to carry out their duties, often due to illness or age, and it would require legal action and public acknowledgement. But what's happening now seems to be more of an organic adjustment. As other royals take time away, Anne has continued. She's not leading in name, but in practice. The public sees it, so does the palace staff, and perhaps most importantly, so do the people who still look to the royal family for guidance and continuity. The strength of Princess Anne's leadership lies in her approach. She doesn't make grand statements or seek to modernize the monarchy with big changes. Instead, she upholds tradition in the most practical way. by being present. At ceremonies, military engagements, charity events, and official visits, Anne is there. Her appearance isn't always headline-worthy, but her consistency sends a message. It says the monarchy is still functioning, it's still working. And for many people, that steady presence matters, especially when other parts of the institution feel uncertain. That idea of showing up without fanfare is central to Anne's appeal. It reflects the values that her mother, Queen Elizabeth II, embodied during her own 70-year reign. There's a calm strength to Anne that feels increasingly rare in today's world of constant media attention and personal branding. She doesn't attempt to shape her image, she simply carries out her work. In a time when the monarchy has faced scandals, personal rifts, and growing public scrutiny, her quiet professionalism stands out. Over the past several years, royal headlines have often focused on the more dramatic elements of the family, whether it's the departure of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, the controversies surrounding Prince Andrew, or speculation about the roles of Charles and Camilla. Amid all this noise, Anne's presence has been remarkably stable. She's avoided scandal, stayed out of internal conflicts, and remained committed to her public responsibilities. That's part of why she is now viewed not just as a respected royal, but as a symbol of what the monarchy can still be. There's also a generational context here. While some members of the younger generation have struggled with their roles or chosen to redefine them entirely, Anne has stayed the course. Her dedication has spanned more than 50 years. She began carrying out public duties in her late teens and has continued to do so without a break. In fact, she consistently ranks among the hardest-working royals in terms of engagements attended each year. Her work ethic is not performative, it's habitual. And while others have been criticized for their approach to public life, Anne's methods are rarely questioned. She's known for her punctuality, her straightforwardness, and her refusal to make things more complicated than they need to be. That practical attitude has served her well, especially now, when the royal household needs figures who are trusted, experienced, and grounded. Public support for Anne continues to grow, but it's not driven by emotional appeal or nostalgia. Instead, it's a response to her record. People have watched her turn up year after year, regardless of circumstances. Whether it's opening a new hospital wing, attending a remembrance service, or meeting with military personnel, she's consistent. That level of reliability has become rare not just in the royal family, but in public life more broadly. And as institutions like the monarchy work to maintain relevance in the modern world, individuals like Anne help hold that foundation together. There is also a quiet contrast between her and Queen Camilla that many have noticed. While Camilla has taken on more public duties since marrying Charles, her journey has been complicated by past controversies and public perception. Despite the official title of Queen, some members of the public still view her with a certain distance. Meanwhile, Anne, without any change in status or title, has slowly but surely become one of the most trusted and admired figures in the royal household. The question that naturally arises is, should leadership within the monarchy be solely about birthright, or should it also take into account personal merit? The royal family, by its very nature, is a hereditary institution. The rules of succession are clearly defined, and Anne is not next in line, nor has she ever been. But what we're seeing now is something beyond rules. It's about who is stepping forward, who is being counted on, and who is earning the trust of the people in real time. Anne's growing role may not come with a change in title, but the influence she holds is significant. People are looking to her not just because of tradition, but because of her actions. She represents the kind of leadership that feels earned, not inherited. And that may be the most powerful form of authority there is. Her work has also continued without personal promotion. She doesn't give interviews about her views. She doesn't leak stories to the press. She doesn't even comment publicly on her increasing role. This silence, far from making her seem distant, has made her more respected. It suggests she sees her duty as something to be done, not discussed. And in an age of oversharing, that kind of restraint feels rare and refreshing. Some have even compared her rise to a kind of quiet revolution, not one marked by rebellion, but by responsibility. She is not challenging the monarchy. She is, in many ways, upholding it in its purest form. By focusing on duty, service, and humility, Anne is providing an alternative example of what royal leadership can look like, especially during a time when the institution is under pressure to prove its value. If this shift continues, it may influence how future generations approach their roles. Anne's example suggests that respect isn't something that comes automatically with a title. It's something that has to be earned over time. Her rise may not change the line of succession, but it is reshaping the public's understanding of what makes a royal truly influential. As the monarchy adapts to new realities, whether they are health-related, generational, or cultural, Princess Anne's position may remain unofficial, but in practice, her leadership is clear. She is doing the work, representing the crown, and quietly redefining what modern royalty looks like. The story of Princess Anne is not one of dramatic transformation. It's one of quiet evolution. Over the course of decades, she has shown that being royal isn't about being in the spotlight. It's about showing up, doing your duty, and putting the institution above personal ambition. In doing so, she may have become something no one expected, the most respected royal of her generation.